Larry Davis. I actually should move. It's really delicate. But I'm Larry's middle son, Naeem. Thanks everyone for coming, and those of you tuning in at home, we appreciate our service. I'm going to be taking care of you guys today, so please bear with me. And first, I think we'll have some music to open this event. Very kind for that beautiful music. Next, I'm going to introduce Amani Davis, Larry's first son, for the acknowledgements. Hello, everyone. So thank you all again very much for coming here today. First, obviously, friends, families, University of Pittsburgh School of Social Work, faculty and staff, past and present, people like Mark Merz, Patrick Gallagher, our performers, Kathy Humphreys, Reverend Mitchell, Rico, our photographer, who's photographed Larry Davis over his entire life. So you should, if you want to see some incredible things, I would reach out to him. Also, I would say his incredible medical team has followed him throughout the course of his life. Dr. Bahari, Dr. Monkalor, Dr. Geller, and finally the people here with us today at Forever Blue Funeral Home. Thank you all very much. Next, we'll have some remarks from friends and family, starting with Sean Eek.
There's so much I could say. Hello, my name is Sean Eek, and Dean Larry E. Davis, was my mentor, my colleague, and my friend. I joined his school when I was 24 years old. I've been there ever since. His name and signature forever etched into my doctorate. In many ways, he was also like a father in me. Like so many great fathers, he pushed me to do what I never imagined I could. This was one of his most precious talents. Seeing more in people than they could see in themselves. It's rare to find such an insightful and effective leader who will not only believe in you, but support you to reach beyond what you thought were your limits. He used to say to me, Sean, you have two choices. Now, I'll be happy with either of them. And if you like, you can do them both. But you have two choices. You can either be chancellor or you can win the Nobel Prize. He did this with so many of his faculty and his students. He took us to heights we never dreamed of. Like great fathers, he also opened my eyes to what I could not see before. I had the great fortune to have a front row seat at a very young and naive age to the construction of his Center on Race and Social Problems, which enlightened me to the historical and ongoing systemic racism that our fellow Americans endure to this day. His passion in this area was contagious, and I wrote my first paper on the role of race in diagnosing schizophrenia under his tutelage. He was the senior author. It received prominent commentary that's still generating debate today. I couldn't have done it without him. He used to warn me, though. Now, Sean, once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. He was right. I can no longer look at an audience or a photograph without questioning its racial composition. Like great fathers, he also built a transformational environment. It's no secret that Dean Davis was hand-selected by Chancellor Nordenberg to transform the School of Social Work at the University of Pittsburgh and bring it into the 21st century. And transform it he did. Under his leadership, we started centers, expanded doctoral education, rose to the heights of academic rankings, and transformed the school into a place where we can engage in serious and rigorous research and scholarship around race. It was impossible to be in his school and not be transformed intellectually, personally, and spiritually. We became better people and a better school because of him. This is the mark of a truly transformational leader. Finally, like so many great fathers, he made me feel like family. Not all fathers do that. Dean Davis, although I was not his biological son, I always felt like it. We had a very special relationship, which was unique, but also illustrates his way with so many others. His faculty and staff were not just people working for him, but people he cared for, embraced, and invited into his home. He would host events at his elegant home in Highland Park. And when I would arrive, he would inevitably come to the door beaming introduce me to his sons, and say, "This is Shawnee. I wish he was your brother." He took me in like I was one of his own. His kindness and generosity were truly unparalleled. He used to say, "Sean, your father must have been really proud of you." What I never did get the chance to tell Dean Davis was that no one was more proud of me than him, including my own father. I will always be thankful for his mentorship, friendship. What Dean Davis invested in others, myself, the school, and the world leaves us forever indebted to him, and it will be a high honor to spend the rest of my life striving to reciprocate.
Good morning. I started not to start this off by saying good morning because I thought maybe it wasn't a good morning because we were what we were here for. Hope you can hear me. But it is a good morning because we celebrate a wonderful man. My name is Ernest Reed, and I've known Larry since the first grade and through kindergarten, all through school, college. And we have been close friends, I guess, ever since. I guess you start off being friends, then you become buddies, and then you become close friends, and then you become brothers, we used to say. And then there's a time when you cross over into something that is beyond brothers, because you share secrets in each other's lives that no one else knows. You wouldn't tell anybody else. We would talk in times of stress and times when you'd say things that you wouldn't want anybody else to know and how you feel. I remember he would go to conferences and things when he were in early days when he first started, and he'd write a paper or something, and he'll tell me, "I don't know if I can write this, I don't know if I can do this." I'd say, "Don't worry, you'll have it when it's time to go." And he always remembered that and told me that. In the 7th grade, this man was named the professor by our friends who we walked to school with every day. We all decided that we needed a nickname, and we all had names like False Face or Speedy or Horse but when it came to him, we all looked at him, and the name, the professor, fit him so well. And in that fittingness of him, he showed us and others around him a wisdom as a young man that was not demonstrated by others. He saw things and said things that none of us really understood at that time. His understanding of racism and equality and fairness and respect was beyond saying. One of the things I really admired about him was that if he was in a hotel or in the halls of Pitt, and a janitor was working on the floor, he would walk up to him on his way out and say to him, "How are you, sir?" And he would stand there and talk to him for a minute, however long the gentleman would think, and then he would walk on. He did that to everyone that he met. You couldn't be in his presence without him being remembered. He liked to dress, as you all know. That was one of his, his part of his style, I want to say. And he didn't dress to impress. He dressed because that's who he was. He wanted you to see him always in the best light. He told me one time, he said, remember, always wear a nice overcoat or a nice coat, because that's the first thing people see and will remember. I don't know where to start with this. There's so many things I wrote to say, but as you see, I didn't pull anything out of my pocket, because I think I could talk about him forever. This morning, we were at his house, just to give you an example, and his cousins came down the stairs, and she was looking for a mirror to see herself. And we looked around. I brought her around the corner into Larry's home and showed her this mirror that goes from floor to ceiling that belonged to his great-grandmother, or his grandmother, one of the two. But neither of those had ever seen that mirror. And had I not told them about that, they would not have known where it came from, but they were really happy that they knew that. And I was happy to share that with them. This man, although somewhat small in stature, was a giant of a man. We experienced what I think of as a brilliant mind. He was a genius. And growing up and knowing him so well, you don't really think about it as you walk the path with someone like that. You just know and see and remember, and you kind of just, that's the way it is. But it was always amazing to me when someone would speak of him or talk about him. They would talk about him with such affection. They remembered him for something he said or something that he did. A most giving man. He always said, you need to be a part of something that's bigger than you. And that he truly was. One example of his understanding of the world and how it works. When we were kids, we liked to go roller skating. We roller skated all over the state of Michigan. But we would go on, black kids only to roller skate on nights from 8 to 11, or thereabouts in the evening. And the white kids went skating during the day when they could get up the next morning and go to school. And Larry always took that as a slap in the face. He said, I wouldn't let my boys go skating and come home at 11 or 12 o'clock at night and they have to go to school the next day. He said that was just wrong, but we at the time thought nothing of it. That's just the way it was. Larry and I used to go roller skating sometimes, and we wouldn't get home until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because we traveled so far. And I'm amazed that our mothers let us do that. But neither one of us ever missed school for that reason. If we went out, we had to go to school the next day. That's the way it was. But we really enjoyed school, both of us. We wanted to be there, so it wasn't a problem. And speaking of the problem in this man's life, being that he was named the professor in the 7th grade, that says that he had a goal in life that was bigger than him, that he didn't know about, that he had to grow into. And he really did that. He filled up those shoes. He filled those shoes. He not only gave back, he gave back every day, no matter where he was or what he did or who he was talking to. He made it a point to give back. Some of you who might speak will know some of the things that he did in giving back, but he was always willing to do his best and to expect the best out of others. If he was here, I think he would say to us, you must never fear the opportunity to do better. And that's who he was, that's how he lived, that's what he did, and that's why we're here today, because of that. I'm so pleased and proud to be standing here telling you a part of his future that I know. On his deathbed, the day before he died, we had a time to talk about our lives and what he wanted. And I asked him, do you regret anything? What is it that you regret? And he said, no, I don't regret anything. I had a long run and a good run. I did the best I could. And if I regret anything, it would be that I had to leave my lovely wife, Kim. He was so sad about that. And she was a precious woman. She took care of him. When I first met her and we became friends, I told him, you had better marry that woman. He had some choices. I said, no, you don't have any choices. You have to marry that woman. And I'm so happy. I don't know who was happier, him or me. But that was my friend. And again, I am honored to speak here. When Kim called me and said that he was passing and that we should come, I was afraid I wouldn't get here in time to spend last minutes or say something to him. And I got here in time a day or two before, and he didn't know I was coming at that moment. And he was laying in his bed, and he looked kind of frail and sad. I walked into the room, and he looked over at me, and I'll never forget, his face lit up so bright. It made me feel so happy to see him. He was just thrilled that I was there. And it was an honor to know that he only wanted me to see him in these last moments, because he didn't want people to see him, like I said, frail and in his bed alone, because that's not who he was. But he was my friend, and it was a pleasure being there with him, a real pleasure. Thank you.
So next I have some words from Eugene Henderson, long-time friend of Larry, who was unable to attend today, but will be here in the future. To the family, friends, and colleagues of my dear friend Larry, I'm very saddened that I am unable to attend this memorial service, but I plan to attend the memorial service that will be held in June. I will always treasure the almost 60 years of friendship between Larry and I. Larry and I often spoke over the telephone. During one of our last conversations with my dear friend Larry, he said, as I reflect back on my life, I can definitely say that I had a great ride, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. Larry pursued life with a passion for excellence and with a commitment for social justice and racial equality. I met Larry when he was a senior in high school. I was impressed with his motivation to attend college and become a professor at an early age. He was always interested in studying issues surrounding racism. Larry knew many years ago that Black Lives mattered, and this propelled him to research, write, and pursue the answers to the questions surrounding these issues. I was always proud of how Larry became a trailblazing author and researcher for racial justice at the University of Michigan, Washington University, and the University of Pittsburgh. However, I truly believe that Larry's greatest accomplishment and legacy was his commitment to his 3 sons. He was very proud of his sons, and he spoke about them often. He instilled in them the motivation to become successful, intelligent, young black men. This strong foundation gives them the desire to understand the path their father chose and to understand their needs, their needed commitment to continue the endeavors in life, including the fight for social and political justice. I will definitely miss our Sunday telephone conversations after we would read the New York Times. We would spend at least an hour discussing the most pertinent articles and issues in the paper. I will also always remember Larry's commitment to me after I spoke at his retirement party here at the University of Pittsburgh. He said that I gave him the greatest compliment he had ever received. I told the audience that Larry reminded me of this commercial that I frequently saw on television at the time. In the commercial, the spokesperson would say, "We don't make the product, however we make the product better." Larry did not just make friends with people, he made friendships with people better. This is how we remained friends for almost 60 years. My condolences to his sons, his beloved wife Kim, and all family and friends. To my dearest friend Larry, rest in peace, and Saginaw, I will never forget you. Dr. Eugene Henderson. Hello again. My name's Imani. So you may know that my dad was a fan of boxing, Star Wars, The Godfather, The Temptations, playing pool, wearing hats, and bow ties. You may know he was a mentor to many, hosted foreign students during the holidays, bringing them to his home for Thanksgiving dinner. You may know that he spent every Christmas for the past 15 years or so volunteering to feed the needy for Christmas Day at Pitt. You may know him as a prolific writer with works including Black and Single, Why Are They Angry With Us? You may know also that he began the Center for Race and Social Problems at the University of Pittsburgh, a magazine that we call Bridges, and a peer-reviewed journal, which to my knowledge is the only such social work journal with an impact factor. What I didn't know before speaking with many of you yesterday was that in passing conversation, my dad always mentioned 3 things. His goal of getting his school into the top 10, and when this was accomplished, his talented faculty at the university, and finally, his family. You heard him probably talk a lot about Naeem, Keanu, and I, but I want to talk a lot about Kim. If you don't have a spouse like him, you should. Yeah, there's not much to say. Thank you so much. She really made my dad's life incredible. You already heard from his best friend, Miss Reed, who had known my dad since they were 5 years old. A couple of days ago, he told me that he was amazed that my dad was able to come from the place that he came from, to not only make it out, but to make it out with enough consciousness to remember that he had to give a voice to the people who weren't able to make it out and speak for themselves. I think all of these details help characterize my dad as hardworking, creative, and determined man that he no doubt was. I think these memories will make it easier for us, though it still will be hard to cope with the loss of such a unique and dynamic human being. Of course, he'll be missed. I think above all, what should be emphasized today, though, is the idea that Larry Davis formed his career and life in the struggle for civil rights and against injustice more generally. It's always clear as he engaged in conversations with his friends and family that he was thinking about race all the time, 24/7, and was preoccupied with fighting against injustice. Often he would say, when I was a young guy, I thought we would
fix racism. And it's clear that we haven't done it. So this hope remains to be realized, and I hope that each of us today takes some time to sort of commit to that and take actions towards making that a reality. I think it's important to remember also that he always marked and reminded others of how far his community had come, but never forgot the work that needed to be done. My favorite example of this attitude of being hopeful but dissatisfied is in his attitude toward being made the first Black tenured professor at a prestigious university in the 1980s. This was not University of Pittsburgh. While he was excited for the opportunity for growth and progress, he reminded everyone around him that he was not the first African American smart enough to be given tenure, nor should he be the last. He acknowledged that the game was rigged, and that even though he may have been treated fairly in that instance, he was more concerned about those who were not being treated fairly. And I think going forward, that's incumbent upon us. The last thing I want to say is that for many of you, the passing of Larry Davis is sort of a shock. I think what many did not know about my dad was that he was first given a terminal diagnosis 25 years ago and kept on going. I think he did not allow any problem, much less a physical one, to get into the way of his purpose, which again was to fight against injustice. I think rather he allowed that purpose to propel him through an illness that, many would not have been able to. I think without such faith and commitment in doing what's right, I probably would have lost my dad when I was just 2 years old. I think fortunately my dad, in this faith and doing the right thing, was able to really make an impossible dream possible, giving us years of education, productivity, and laughter from Larry Davis. He didn't complain, he didn't make excuses, he never let anything stop him. Yesterday, his best friend on history told me that during their time together in St. Louis, my father, which was more than 10 years, my father never missed a single day of work. So today we mourn the passing of Larry Davis, who was many more things than just a professor, a husband, a dad. But I want to take this opportunity while we're all here to encourage two things that I know my dad did until the very end. The first was do not let injustice discourage you. And I think the second was to fight for your community whenever you see injustice.
Next, we'll have the obituary read by Valerie Copeland, longtime friend and colleague of Larry Davis.
Good morning. Larry would say, don't talk for a long time. Keep it short, Val. Who am I? I'm Valerie Carr Copeland. I've known of Larry Davis since I was a sophomore in my undergraduate program at Livingstone College. And I used to attend counseling and social work education conferences, and Larry was a scholar that we often read about, and when you went to the conference, you would see him hopping across the loungers dressed to kill, and we were all looking at him, young and old. I got to know Larry better when he became the dean of the School of Social Work. It was a tough time when we started because he frightened me, he intimidated me. I didn't think I could live up to his ideals. But then he appointed me the director of the doctoral program, and then I became his associate dean. And I remember Larry saying that oftentimes people don't get a chance to do the things that they can do because the game is rigged. That you can have all of the confidence, all of the intelligence, all of the skills. You can have the exact same resume as a person next to you, but their skin is lighter. And because their skin is lighter, they may be the one who would get the job. They fit in. The sun rose on May 11, 1946, for the birth of Larry E. Davis to Cress and Clara Pearl Davis in Michigan. And when the sun finally set and he closed his eyes, it was on March 30, 2021. I was sitting in the next room and I heard him talking endlessly to Naeem. And Kim came in and said, I think we lost him. And I think, no, he just went to sleep. She said, no, I think he lost him. And we had lost him. Dr. Davis was preceded in death by his parents, his sister Clara, and his two brothers, Lamar and Levon. He completed his primary and secondary education in Saginaw, Michigan, earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from Michigan State University and a master's of social work from the University of Michigan. After 3 years of working with Vista in some of the poorest neighborhoods in New York City, he returned to the University of Michigan, where he earned a second master's in psychology and became the first African American to earn a PhD from the University of Michigan's dual degree program in social work and psychology. When you read Larry's work, you find the word being repeated, the first. He was always the first. But being the first, he never wanted to be the last. And the reason you knew he didn't want to be the last, because he left the door open for others to come through. Prior to coming to the University of Michigan, Dr. Davis joined the faculty at Brown School of Social Work. Prior to coming to the University of Pittsburgh, Dr. Davis joined the faculty at the Brown School of Social Work at Washington University in St. Louis. Whereas his son Amani mentioned, he was the first African American in any discipline at Wash U to earn tenure. He was the first African American in any discipline at Washington University to be awarded tenure. He was also named the first E. Desmond Lee Professor of Racial and Ethnic Diversity. When he arrived at the University of Pittsburgh to become the dean of our School of Social Work in 2001, he was the first to be named the Donald M. Henderson Professor. In addition to his deanship, Dr. Davis was the founding director of the Center on Race and Social Problems, the first center of its type in any American school of social work. Dean Davis published extensively, wrote, edited, and co-authored 7 books. He was the co-editor-in-chief of the 20th edition of the Encyclopedia of Social Work and was a founder and chair of the editorial board for the Journal of Race and Social Problems. Dr. Davis was a member of numerous professional organizations, domestic and internationally. He founded 2 national organizations, Black Administrators, Researchers, Scholars, Incorporated. We are known as BARS. And the second organization, REAP, a consortium of race, ethnicity, and poverty centers in universities across the United States. In retrospect, when I think about the work that he did, in some ways he's saying, I'm leaving the legacy behind for the rest of you to follow. I'm creating a group. You don't even have to create your own group. I'm creating a group for you. I'm giving you the structure. And it's up to you to carry on. Dr. Davis was inducted into the American Academy of Social Work and Social Welfare, received the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of Michigan School of Social Work, the first person to receive both significant life achievement and social work education from the Council on Social Work Education, and a Distinguished Career Achievement Award from the Society for Social Work Research. Larry has been our father in social work education and research as it relates to the Black experience, the Black family, race, and social justice. The last couple of years, we would go to conferences, and Larry was the king. Because we knew everything that we learned from Larry over the decades eventually was going to come to an end. And we wanted to give him his due respect while he could experience it and see it and believe it. Dr. Davis was deeply committed to social justice, as we've heard, the Black family, race. He was genuinely committed to the development of young scholars, took pride in their accomplishments, especially the faculty he recruited and mentored. In every dimension of his life, he was graceful, a gentleman, and a scholar. Wonderful host, well-read, well-traveled. His appetite for learning and knowledge discovery never ended. There were books that he had ordered to read that will not be read by him. In addition to many friends, colleagues, relatives, and acquaintances, he leaves to mourn the memory. He leaves us to mourn his memory and cherish the impact he had on our lives. The brightest shining stars in his universe at the time of his death include his wife, Kim Armstrong Davis, and his 3 adult sons, Amani, Naeem, and Keanu. Larry has left each of us better off than he found us. His mere presence in our lives is a blessing. And for racial justice, equity, and inclusion, he has left our world in a much better place than it was when he was born 74 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Copeland, for those great words. Next, we'll have a musical selection. I think you guys will like it. My Way by Frank Sinatra.
That's not last. Sorry. My apologies.
You know, don't get it right the first time sometimes. Yeah, we'll actually have a piano selection from our man, Derek Tynes. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm gonna sing a little bit of hymn for you. It must have been cold out in the shadows to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. You always walked a step behind. I was the one with all the glory, well, you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. Beautiful smile to hide the pain. can fly higher than an eagle. You were the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. You are the wind beneath my wings. Fly away, take your rest. You fought a good fight and you finished well. Fly, fly away to the heavens. Take your rest. You fought a good fight. Fly away, fly away, fly away. For you should know that you're the wind beneath my wings.
Next, we'll have the eulogy by a good close friend, Glenn Mahone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm testing the mic. Good morning. Good morning. I think it's okay. My name is Glenn Mahone, and I am here today to honor my friend, Larry Davis. As I'm sitting here listening to the very insightful, emotional, and dynamic commentary on my friend Larry, it occurs to me that much of what I may say now has been said, at least said in a slightly different way. So if you're thinking of this as a trial, I would be a corroborating witness to authenticate what is said, has been said before. So while I'm humbled by this awesome responsibility to today publicly remember with each of you this great and towering man, scholar, father, son, husband, and friend. There's a day and a task that I would gladly have postponed indefinitely. The dictionary tells me that eulogy is a Greek word for praise, and I, using words from many of you present today, intend to praise him. I've drawn upon words used to describe Larry by those who knew him best, his peers, his students, and academic dignitaries. Some as brief as a word, others a sentence, but all insightful tribute to the man whose loss we individually and collectively now mourn. Here are a few words of tribute that I believe tell the tale as it is best told. Gone too soon. A great mind, great innovator, and an even greater man. He left us richer. His commitment to improving knowledge about race and racism in our society was inspirational to us all. Sharp dresser. In the vernacular, I might say, clothes horse. He was generous with his time. He believed in service and modeling its importance to his sons, by far and by any measure, his greatest legacy. Virtually everything he did with his sons in mind. He cared. He was deeply in love with his wife. And he was a friend. Larry was a complicated man, in part because of the depth of his intellect and the ferocity with which he pursued the question that was set in his mind at the age of 7. If we were slaves, why are they, whites, angry with us? Since his avocation was his vocation, this question was always a part of his personal and professional life. More on that later, perhaps. He was a master strategist for change. His scholarship and reputation that it engendered put him on stages where he could make a difference and speak truth to power. And he deftly did so. About him, it can be fairly said that he left this city, the University of Pittsburgh, perhaps the world, better off than when he found them, with infinitely better prospects for a just society and a more perfect union. And he leaves a significant number of well-trained, committed professionals to continue the work to which he dedicated his life. A rich and enduring piece of his legacy. Further to this point, he was a visionary who spearheaded the establishment of the Black Administrators, Researchers, and Scholars Organization, known as BARS. The goal of BARS is to facilitate the development of scholars and systems to advance the standing and professional prospects of its members in academia. On the strength of his stature and personality, he was able to recruit recognized leadership across the nation to actively become involved. I know of the quality of the persons he recruited because I formed the company, or the organization for Larry. Quality people, all. Look for this organization to continue to remove impediments that have hindered diversity, equality, and inclusion across the social work profession and academia. We have heard the crown jewel of Larry's many programmatic accomplishments was the founding of the Center on Race and Social Policy. The center conducts applied social science research on race, color, ethnicity, and their influence on the quality of life for all Americans. I was proud to lead Reed Smith's support of the speaker series associated with the center from inception. I never attended a lecture that was not standing room only, due in large measure to the reputation and caliber of the speakers Larry was able to attract to the center. He was the center of gravity. The center received national recognition, adding to Larry's reputation for innovation and excellence. I was fortunate to be able to observe Larry's creative genius up close while serving on the Board of Visitors at the School of Social Work. A tremendous leader. Let me talk a minute about my personal relationship and friendship with Larry. Friendship is a word used to describe a wide range of human associations. I would describe our friendship as one that was purely a voluntary act of caring about another person. We were contemporaries and had come to adulthood in the late 60s. By his account, he always had a well-developed plan for what he wanted to do in life. I believe Ernest corroborated that. The professor. I was not that resolute. He joined Vista and he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, while around that same time, I was a platoon leader in Vietnam. Larry and I became fast friends when he arrived in Pittsburgh. We were both in our 50s. How young that seems now. And we had learned the axiom from our mothers that in order to have a friend, one must be a friend. Despite our very different backgrounds, we got to know each other easily. I think one of the early experiences that solidified our relationship was my nominating him to be a member of the Black Bow Tie Club of Pittsburgh, a very weighty organization. I was president by fiat. He did not know how to tie a bow tie at the time, but no doubt saw it as a way to enhance his image as a sharp dresser, as noted earlier. I had learned from the master of the bow tie, prominent lawyer Wendell G. Freeland, whose motto was that a bow tie should always be fiercely tied and worn. Fiercely tied and worn. Larry was a good student who respected traditions fairly held, even as to bow ties. Traditions, ritual, and constancy seemed to be embedded in Larry's DNA. One of my favorite African traditions teaches that the true gifts are not those mindlessly bought or acquired or given without any real connection or relationship to the giver. Under this tradition, the most precious gift one can receive is one possessed, prized, and used by the giver. Hello? You order a pizza? In that fine tradition, I am wearing what Kim describes as one of Larry's favorite bow ties. Fiercely tied. If you think that this is a thinly veiled and shameless request to be allowed to keep the tie, you're correct. All friendships include rivalries, and mine with Larry was no exception. Those of you who know Larry know that he fancied himself as a good pool player. And he was. At some point I mentioned that I too enjoyed playing pool. That resulted in an invitation to play. He did not ask me how I played, and I felt no obligation to tell him in advance of my skill. My victory on this first occasion sparked a friendly rivalry, which we both enjoyed every time we had a chance. As competitive as he was, to his credit, he always acknowledged that I was the better shot. Larry and I both loved our mothers dearly. We both, like most of us, hoped that the final calculus of our lives, taken as a whole, would be positive. It was not a preoccupation with either of us, but it crept, often unnoticed, into many of our conversations. We both had great expectations for our sons. He had 3, I had 2. Such expectations never die. The final trait I would like to mention before I take my seat is his courage in all things, great and small, personal and professional. Shortly after I got to know Larry, he confided in me that he had a health problem, without providing much detail. It turned out to be a battle that stretched over 2 decades and many medical procedures. Sometimes he would just disappear for a short period of time and then reappear, with barely a mention of what he had just been through. In all of the time I knew Larry, I do not recall one complaint about his medical condition. Even later, when his medical condition began to materially decline. That display of raw courage adds to his legend and legacy. I admired his strength of character and purpose that drove him to get on with the order and purpose of the day, however challenging, and they were foundational to our enduring friendship. Like many of you, I feel blessed to have known and been a friend of Larry Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Now we'll have a musical solo by Dr. Kathy Humphrey.
The end is near, and so I'll face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, and I'll state my case of which I'm certain. I've lived a life of fool. I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets
I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. Read the words. Take it, Kathy.
But through it all, when there's a doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. But through it all, I did it my way.
Yes, there are times I know you knew when I bit it off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was a doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all and I did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried. I've had my fill, my share of losing. And now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that. And may I say, not in a shy way, oh no, oh no, I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then what has he done to say the things he truly feels and not the words of the news and records show? I took the blows and did it my way.
Now to finish things up with some closing remarks, I'll let Kiana hit us. Larry's good song.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you all for coming once again. It's been wonderful to be around so many people that knew my father and to hear so many stories about him. And to that end, I want to start our closing with a story of my own. For pretty much as long as I can remember as a child, in my father's study, on his lamp, he had a small post-it note. And on it, he had written, "The world is my country, all mankind is my brethren, and to do good is my religion." And so this is a quote from the founding father, Thomas Paine, who, if you, as most of you probably know, is somewhat unlikely of a person for my father to have quoted, but it rings true of his approach to life and the things that he was interested in. And so there's been no mention of the afterlife today, and I think that that would have pleased my father. And I think that our discussion of his life is what he would have wanted. So I want to thank you all for everyone who spoke for giving that. Lastly, I just want to end on a note of thank you once again, and just to reiterate the message that you've heard from just about everyone who spoke today, which is that my dad spent his life thinking about and working on issues of race. And I think, as we heard today, he was wildly successful in his efforts there. And despite all of the strides that he made, I think he never lost sight of everything that still needs to be done. And he repeatedly expressed to me that he wasn't afraid of death per se, but he was just disappointed that he wouldn't get to see how things turned out. So, as we wrap up today, I just want each of you to keep this in mind and to just continue to do the work in his honor. And think of him when you encounter any obstacles. And so to close, I want to borrow one of his favorite quotes, which is from his mother, my grandmother, Claire Davis, which says, "Don't worry about the next fella, just do your part." Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the service for Dr. Davis here today at the funeral home. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's